one of my podcasts. Hey, welcome from Woodtown to Kensil Culture. And here it is, Alvin and Silly, the mogul of mirth, with top drawer trivia. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's him, comedian John Kensil. John
Yay.
Kensil, what's up?
Thank you very much. We're at the stately Kensil Manor right now with the picture of
It's very nice. It's very Ozzie and Harriet.
with the picture of Ruth Buzzy back on the table there. And
Poor Ruth, we're all praying for her. She's had a series of strokes, and we hope she's coming back. And she did actually put out a couple things saying thanks for the cards and letters. So God bless Ruth Buzzy.
I don't think she. To be honest with you, I don't think she's probably doing that well. It's had a series of strokes, and she's bedridden. Not that I want that, but she was very funny, very naturally funny. She's on TV.
She and Charlie Callis at the Dean Martin roasts were sprinkled on like a little pepper because they were different from the others. They played characters, and her character as being I forget what Gladys.
Yes.
Okay, the Gladys, the obvious woman of easy virtue and was passed by, an old maid, we used to call them, John. I don't know if we call them that, but her character, when she played that up against these gruff guys as big as Sinatra,
Yeah.
and all these other people were. I mean, she was amazing.
We always talk about, I know it sounds like we're dating ourselves, but the infomercials for the Dean Martin roasts have been on TV for the past 25 years. And they're hilarious. And there's some older guys back then, like especially Don Rickles, who's a god in comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But the other secondary characters, like Foster Brooks, was just as freaking funny.
Foster Brooks was a comedian who appeared to be drunk all the time. He was very, he knew how to, slur his words very well. He would have,
Isn't that funny? Back then, people loved that. They thought lovable drunks were funny. Like Otis the drunk on Andy Griffith, or even Dean Martin had that playboy swinging drunk character. But the third character on those roasts who was always hilarious was Ruth Buzzy.
Yeah.
She plays this like spinster old lady with a brown sweater and her hair is in a bun.
And she started that on Laugh-In.
Yes.
Okay, on Channel 4, where she was played the same character, and she would be beat up by
Artie Johnson.
Artie Johnson,
Yeah.
and that ensued hilarity, and that's what Laugh-In was all about. And it was great to see that character come back into real life situations that those roasts were.
Oh, it was funny too. Is she was always funny, and there's an episode where they're. I think we talked about this before, but there's an episode where.
It's reruns. It's summer. It's okay to
to
say them. It's 147 degrees outside. Okay.
They bring her out as Frank Sinatra's first girlfriend at a roast, and they bring her out, and she says, I worked for the Los Angeles Police Department. I'm known as the woman of 1,000 faces. And Sinatra goes, and you wore that one tonight? And she starts beating him with the pocketbook. But it was always funny. And there was one. Did you ever see one where
because she had commitment into that pocketbook. That little pocketbook she had was probably just a pillow or something like that, but it looked like a pocketbook. And she would beat there hasn't been a pocketbook looked like that since Ethel Merman in A Mad World, where she actually injured Milton Berle when she was hitting him with the pocketbook because she had put all her jewelry in there. Okay, and she forgot it, and she started hitting them, and it.
It was funny. There's an episode of one of the Dean Martin roasts where she, it turns into a big brawl, and everybody on the dais, like Orson Welles and LaWanda Page, Aunt Esther from Sanford, they all pulled out. They all pulled out the purses, Everybody's beating each other with them. It was just very, very funny. And wait, you have glasses?
That's prop shit. Oh, sorry.
Every once in a while on TV, there's a channel called Decades.
Okay.
And it's neat. They say what happened on this date in certain year. But sometimes on the weekends they run, or in the afternoon, every afternoon from like 5 till 6, they run episodes of Laughing.
Yeah.
Oh man, talk about a dated show. At the time, it must have been very funny, but it was so outrageous and quick and funny. You watch it today, ugh. Oh my God.
Humors change with the times, John. At one time, certain jokes were thought of as hilarity, and they couldn't do any. They had to do almost dad jokes, on Laughing. But they got a president to say "sock it to me."
Richard Nixon. That was Richard Nixon. Their big phrases were "You bet your bippy."
And bippy is was your butt. Bippy.
Looked it up in your Funkin' Wagnalls.
Yeah, and that's almost saying like Godfrey Daniels, like fucking Wagnall. It is. It's. I mean, we had to hide it back then. Now you have it on, and you can stretch humor to any part of the envelope.
But the parts that Laughing that's still kind of funny was the ones that were they create their own universe. I've always said that about like SCTV is still funny because they made their own universe. Like it's true. It doesn't rely on that Spiro Agnew jokes and stuff like that. But there's a famous one we were talking about Ruth Buzzy earlier. She's on the park bench, and a little lecherous old man comes up with an overcoat.
He was good. He was good as a lecherous old man. Yeah.
And he has a long white hair and a top hat, a derby hat, and he sits down next to her, and he leans over to her and he says, "Do you believe in the hereafter?" And Ruth Buzzy says, "Well, yes, I do." And he says, "Then I guess you know what I'm here after." And he starts beating the thing. It was very funny.
But they could also take jokes from pop culture of their time, which were like the Marx Brothers. That sounds like a Marx Brothers sort of line, like a Groucho would come out and say, you know what I'm here. So, but it was funny how they pushed the envelope for then, not only in the sexual content, but also in the psychedelia. They had the painted bodies and
Goldie Hawn.
Judy Carn or Mrs. Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
Right. She was married to Burt Reynolds, the girl in the bikini on Laughing.
She lived for a while around here, right in Bucks County for a little bit after she broke her neck.
Wow.
But my God, if anybody out there listening checks out an episode of Laughing, it's so. I wish there was a technique to put yourself back in the shoes when it was first on. It was so wild, and he had a gay Alan Sues was a flamboyantly gay guy who played like Al the sports guy, and it was really like I guess it was
Alan Sues. Yes, he was the one. He played a flamboyant sort of like what they would call flamboyant today.
Flaming.
A flamer on the thing, and he would always give any poofy answer that might be. But a little known fact that he was on one of the greatest episodes of Twilight Zone. He was one of the masks. Remember when they take off the mask and they look like it? Well, that was Alan Sues was on that, and I'm loving MeTV. I'm telling you. Okay. And I've never liked Mannix, and now I like Mannix a lot. And it's funny how something could be around for years and years and years, like Mannix, and I never saw an episode.
I have my day job. I'm a repo man for an adoption agency, but every house I work in, there's
more orphan than not.
They have MeTV on all day long. They watch Petticoat Junction and all the old shows. Almost every house has an old show, and sometimes in the middle of the night, I get up to make sure my puppets are tucked in the bed properly, and I'll put on Mannix, Cannon, and Barnaby Jones. And
I've never seen a Barnaby Jones. I can't watch Jed as anybody else. It ruined it for me. Barnaby Jones. I can watch The Fat Man. I can watch Cannon. I like that he makes fun of himself sometimes. Okay, about his girth.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I thought every season on Cannon, William Conrad was a big, fat, bald, mustached former Korean War veteran who became a detective.
He was big on the radio too.
Oh.
He was actually Matt Dillon on the radio, and he was Superman. And he who else was he?
He was the narrator for.
Oh, he was a narrator for a lot of for not only Bullwinkle but the Fugitive, the Fugitive series, but he had a big booming voice. Yeah. But he was, he was tipping it by 300-400 pounds.
And he wasn't the tallest guy in the world, but he apparently was like on a show. He played an ex-Marine or ex-Army guy who became a detective. But there's episodes where they have him doing physical stuff, like karate chopping bad guys. But if you're listening out there, if you get a chance to watch it, the show was on for a long time, like for 7 years or they
love Cannon, but Cannon had the voice, and I guess he had the availability that it gets you good ratings.
Every season the show came on, though, they gave him a new car to drive in, and it was this big, giant, long 1970s Eldorado, and
beautiful.
But their cars were 30 feet long because he wouldn't look so fat in it.
Yeah, exactly. They, in fact, they were onto Volkswagen buses by the time.
What's really cool though? Like people love watching Law and Order. This was Law and Order back then, and it's really neat. We just mentioned Mannix.
Mannix gets into 3 fights every show, and he gets beat up once in a while. Now he doesn't come back. I
read online that he was shot like 40 times on the show. He kept getting shot. But which is really neat on the show. When you watch these shows, you pull your phone out and go, I know that guy. I know that woman. Who is that? And you spend the whole. You ever do look at like who's this person? And so many stars, young James Woods and John Ritter. See very young. That's how they got to start.
I saw Diane Keaton.
Oh yeah, that's right.
A very young Diane Keaton the other night as a rich heiress or something like that. I kept warning her about Woody Allen the entire time.
It's really interesting.
Here.
When people love like the Marvel movies, they all exist in the Marvel universe,
right?
Well, all those 70s detective shows all existed in the same universe. Mannix guest starred on
Cannon,
and they visited Barnaby Jones, and the other show Harry O with David Jansen. It was always like 70s detective. They all encountered each other. And
I did not know that.
And this popular show in the 80s, Murder, She Wrote with Angela Lansbury.
Right.
They were on it like at different times. Mannix was a guest star on one episode, and he was old with a toupee on his head.
I wonder, I always rejected those kind of shows because I always thought, they're for old people.
Me too.
And Me TV has made it into a little hipper, by showing it. And some of the, it's funny to see how they perceive pop culture back then, because they'll dancing. I saw, I saw Cannon dancing, like doing the frug.
And they liked it. Yes.
And he wasn't bad, and so it was. It must have been empowering for old fat guys back then.
People loved the detective shows. They were so huge in the 70s. People loved watching them, and I just got. It might sound dated. They're very entertaining and cheesy, and violent. What you said about the guest stars on there too, and a couple shows they had. Oh, I thought it was really neat. There's a movie called The Brady Bunch Movie. Which is very funny.
I've just seen like lines of that.
It's very funny. Nobody ever said anything negative about
it. And her nose is real big or something.
Well, on the episode in the movie, it was released in the theaters. They had to find Mrs. Brady's first husband.
Okay.
Right? And this is like the early 90s. She hired a detective, and it was Barnaby Jones. It was what's his name? Buddy Epson. He had to be like 95. He's behind a desk in like a tan suit. It's very ridiculously funny.
I like that he, the crossovers are, something you have to catch that episode, and the crossovers are sometimes very, you shatter your TV watching brain.
That's why, but people always love a good detective show like Law and Order. Hey,
I haven't seen too many Law and Order, so that's not,
every episode could be a movie.
I mean, he's good. You know, the lead cop in it.
Christopher Maloney, the big ball guy.
No.
Oh, Sam Wooderson.
No.
Law and Order.
The Jerry Orbach.
Oh, him. Yes.
Jerry Orbach was actually he's a Broadway phenomenon. He was in 42nd Street. He was in the Fantastics and things like that. But I love him in that. And I think that he plays the perfect seen it all, done it all, a detective. He's he makes it believable.
Very entertaining.
That's why I guess Law and Order is such a big hit.
Hey, you know what time it is?
Hey, a lot of times we bring law and we have some order to Kensil culture. And each week we bring on, it's bi-weekly we bring on the fantastic tweets of John Kensil.
Hey, Wib.
Yeah.
Last night at an open mic night,
yeah,
I did an Octomom joke and a Tiger King joke, just so I could show the young buck comedians I still got it. And plus, I changed all my gimbal jokes to Woolworths.
John.
Yes.
That's what you have to do. You have to change your references.
Wait. There's an electronic betting game in all the convenience stores in Philadelphia.
Okay, I've seen them.
It's called the Pennsylvania game.
Okay, the Pennsylvania game.
But
fixed.
Oh yes, but the only problem with it is,
what's the problem?
It pays out in cheesesteaks, soft pretzels, and Frank Stallone 8x10s. Well,
you can eat Frank Stallone 8x10. I guess he ate a lot of them. Who wants a Frank? He was in Barmaid or Barfly.
Wig.
Yeah.
I've been trying to have a Kickstarter campaign, like a GoFundMe campaign to raise money for a feature film.
That's great, John. You're going to raise money for.
Yeah. But
what's your film called?
Well, it was an all squirrel version of Mrs. Doubtfire. But I had to GoFundMe up for 6 years, and I haven't raised shit.
An all squirrel version?
It's squirrels, but they're dressed as Mrs. Doubtfire. Wait
a minute. How can I hold? What are you going to make little brooms for them and stuff? What are you cross-dressing squirrels for? You're nuts.
Well, that's when the cops called me.
What happened to those squirrels that you had relationships with? I
just told the cops I was making a movie. Wait,
yeah.
You heard about the incident at Sesame Place when the Latino Muppet ignored the kids?
Yes, yeah.
Well, there's another one came up too, that Chuck E. Cheese, the giant rat.
I understand Chuck E. Cheese. You took your nephew there.
Yeah. He hated it.
Yeah, why did he hate it?
He was 34. Oh. Wait. So Chuck E. Cheese got caught. The Sesame Place guy got caught. But what is it with all these mascots going crazy? And I think the only problem I ever had with a mascot. One time I saw the Philly Fanatic at a block party. And he came up and he hugged me and he whispered in my ear, "The moon landing was fake."
You have to fool 300,000 people who worked on that.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of that, blah blah blah, conspiracy theory nuts.
Oh yeah.
You always talk about the moon landing. How come nobody ever talks about Chef Boyardee's? How come nobody ever talks about Chef Boyardee's early experiments with cannibalism?
Wait, he put the boy in Boyardee. Hey, I hear he just died.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, he passed away.
Wait, I have another GoFundMe page.
All right.
For my all squirrel version of Patch Adams.
What's this with squirrels this week?
But it hit a snag because most squirrels are allergic to grease paint and cigarettes.
What are you doing?
Wait.
I'm embarrassed about that, John. That's the second we're all dressing up. That's something like serial killers do.
Did you hear that Winona and Ashley Judd are being left out of their mom's will? Well, there is a stipulation. We'll get all our money if they get married within 7 days. We'll spend a night in a haunted house. What is Hollywood wills?
The ghost of Mrs. Chicken.
Win. one of the most popular movies out today is the Elvis Presley movie.
Oh yeah, big time for the king. The king, he's still the king.
Took
the title away from Clark Gable.
Yeah, I never told you this, but I went to see a 2-man Elvis show at the German Club down the street here.
Wait a minute, a 2-man Elvis show?
It was we wore a big pair of coveralls. No, one guy played young Elvis.
Okay.
Another guy played old wrestler Elvis.
Okay.
And older and heavier. But there was a 10-minute intermission while they got changed, and so they had an act come out, and it was a guy billed as the New Jersey Strongman.
Okay.
And he came out and he bent frying pans in half. I'm not making up. So he bent them in half.
I think I opened for that guy.
Oh, you did. It was with Nipolini and those guys.
Okay. Yeah. And he really made them into I guess omelet pans.
Wait.
Yeah.
I think this week was the anniversary of Wilford Brimley passing away. Wilford Brimley.
I'm sorry, the Oatmeal Man.
Yes.
The Oatmeal Man who was in that movie by
Ron Howard, too. And it's also, too, is that, he was only like 48 or 50 when he made that movie, but he looked way older.
Oh, man.
I saw him at a horror convention.
Yeah?
And I got my picture taken with him.
Okay.
You have to pay him money. And I said, hey, you were great in Krippendorf's Tribe. And he said, I wasn't in that movie. And I said, oh, my bad. Can I have my money back? And he told me to F off.
Pound oatmeal.
Yes.
Now, he was a spokesman for oatmeal and how it was going to take care of everything.
7 years ago this week, Roddy Piper passed away.
Famous wrestler who was in one of my favorite movies. They Live.
I have the magnet right there on my refrigerator.
He has a magnet on his refrigerator with Roddy Piper.
Well,
he wore a skirt.
Yes. Well, people say I used to look like him.
When you wore a skirt.
I said it was a kilt. Well, it was more of a floral.
Yeah, if you came around there, you would have gotten killed.
It was more of a floral sundress, but I was going through a thing. Wig.
You and those squirrels.
20 years ago, when I was 14,
okay,
I took Judy Carter's stand-up comedy class.
Okay, yeah, I remember Judy Carter.
Right? Yeah. And one time she gave us a writing assignment: make jokes about your childhood.
Okay.
So she's there in a room full of women comedians.
Okay.
And I said, my mom had really flabby arms, and if we were late for school, she would jump off the roof holding us and glide us to school like a flying squirrel.
Squirrel again!
Right? And Judy Carter stopped the class and stared at me and said, that's the most offensive thing I've ever heard. We were very self-conscious about those flabby arms.
I'm getting a little flabby under there too. But that is offensive, and I remember you doing that on stage here.
Yeah.
That was part of your act.
Yeah. And Wid, you know the story that Helen Keller fell down a well and screamed her fingers off?
I've heard the Helen Keller, and she picked up the iron and said hello.
He just ruined my tweet.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
You know the story about Helen Keller screaming her fingers off? That's not true. It never happened. I saw the movie with Patty Duke, and it didn't happen. And just to set things straight, she didn't answer the iron either. Wait.
I'm sorry, John.
Remember Chang and Ang, the famous Siamese twins?
I saw their bones at the Mutter Museum, at the Museum of Medical Oddities here in Philadelphia, 8th and.
You know what was worse than them being conjoined twins? Ang had restless leg syndrome. Wait, one drank and the other one didn't. So the other one was just drunk by proxy, I guess. My doctor told me I had Lyme disease.
Oh, you get that from ticks.
Yeah.
You get that from ticks, and it's Lyme. It's called Lyme disease because of Lyme, Connecticut.
Well, I didn't know that.
Where it was found at the first and identified.
Well, when my doctor said I had Lyme disease, he said, cheer up. When life gives you Lyme disease, make lemonade. And then I looked over at his diploma on the wall, and it was in crown on the back of an Arby's placemat.
You know where he probably caught that?
What?
Squirrels, okay? Because squirrels carry ticks, okay? You know what doesn't carry ticks? Though? The opossum, the ugly opossum.
Yes, they eat them.
And they eat them. Yes, they eat a large amount of ticks each day, and they're very ugly.
Today, in 2017,
yeah.
I took my dad to the hospital to get looked at. He had his leg had a bad wound on it, right? So he's sitting in a wheelchair, waiting to go in the ER, and this crazy woman sat down next to him and started talking to him. And she's trying to tell my dad jokes, and my dad looked so miserable. And she said to my father, and I'm going to curse now, sorry.
That's okay. Right? Just don't say taint.
Yeah, all right. And so she said to my father, what's the difference between a monkey and a mailbox, right? And my dad said, what? And she goes, if you don't know the difference between a monkey and a mailbox, I'm not going to mail you a fucking letter, right? And my dad just stared at her. She just cursed. It's stranger. And she goes, I'm strong, look at this. And she pulls her arm out, touching her flabby arms, right? And my dad said, oh, is that where that monkey bit you? And she got mad and got up and left.
Your dad was very fun.
Wid.
Yes, sir.
They're making a new Pinocchio movie. Pinocchio.
Oh, Pinocchio. Yeah. Oh, about puppets, John. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You have to go see it. Did you audition?
No.
You're lying.
All right. Well, in the movie, Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, who plays the puppet.
Uh-huh.
Do you know how he learned how to act like a wooden stiff? By watching Kristen Stewart movies.
And who's directing it?
Guillermo del Toro, the guy made Shape of Water and Hellboy movies.
Yeah, well, he's the man pulling the strings.
Wid, I mentioned my father.
Uh-huh. That was very scary. Did you see Pinocchio?
Yeah, it's creepy. Very creepy. My father, we had an incident. It took me years to repair our relationship.
I'm sorry to hear that.
He caught me watching. Well, he caught me watching Fraggle Rock with my pants around my ankles. Hey, Wid,
was there a squirrel on that road?
I have a great idea for a movie.
What's that?
An Eskimo couple is standing outside their igloo.
Oh, we don't call them Eskimo.
Well, and a giant block of ice falls from her groin, and she says, "Uh-oh, my water just broke."
Did you do that on Papoose on purpose?
12 years ago,
water just broke.
And a big block of ice comes out. 12 years ago this week.
It starts blubbering.
12 years ago this week, some comic came in from LA. It was kind of famous. It may have been Wayne Cotter.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
He walks down the stage. He always dresses very nicely. Nice suit,
yeah,
shoes.
they like.
Right. Well, he comes out and he had nice shoes, and somebody in the audience yelled out, "Hey, where'd you get those shoes? McDonald's?" And they're just black dress shoes from like a Payless. And the whole night long, that was stuck in his head. He said, "What do you mean? These aren't unusual." And he couldn't drop it. It was stuck in his head.
You know, something like that would, it sends you off because you think that you're offensive in some way. Somebody made fun of my sneakers. I had New Balance or something like that, which I read now are very unhip. Okay, New Balance shoes. The shoes I got on now are pretty practical. Okay, because I work. I'm not a loafer, but but to somebody make fun of your shoes, that was.
And they weren't. The funny part was there was nothing wrong with these shoes at all. They're just.
I know. I didn't think anything was wrong with my sneakers, New Balance, but I hear that they're very unhip and people make fun of it.
I was in Mexico recently, and I didn't know what time it was, and I saw a Mexican fellow sitting next to a donkey, and I asked him if he knew what time it was. And he grabbed the donkey by the balls and said it was 2:00. So I said, "Oh, you can tell time by lifting the donkey's balls?" And he said, "Yeah, easy, look." And he had a wristwatch on his testicles.
That's not how the joke goes, John.
I know.
I know you know. But it was, it moved the balls over and you can see the clock tower. But that was, I like Donkey Chunks.
For fun, I tried to teach Coco the signing gorilla, Hey Soul Sister by the band Train, and she smashed my ukulele over my head. Now, I know I may have said that before, but I tried to do it a second time with that effing hairy a-hole.
What were you playing? What, you trying to teach him what song?
Hey Soul Sister. I know you heard it.
I know Hey Soul Sister by, yeah. It's a good song, but that, you know, gorilla. What happened to your squirrels?
I had to write a complimentary letter of recommendation for my niece.
Well, you're a good uncle.
And I just wrote she reminds me of a manly Spaniard. And now she's all mad at me.
Do you mean Spaniard the dog or a Spanish person?
Spanish person.
Oh, okay.
This is the last one.
Oh, which was wrong in the what they called in the Gladiator. They called Russell Crowe a Spaniard, but Spain wasn't even invented yet.
Oh yeah. One time, the legendary Wood wore a giant French fry costume on stage.
I missed that costume.
And he put the costume on, and he said, "Hey, everybody, I'm the Big Mac Daddy." And then Wood pointed to a toothless guy in the audience and he said, "You do the meth." Woo! And he points to a French fry suit and said, "There's too much starch in this."
I said, "There's too much starch." I said, "Hey, dear, would you go out with me if I wore this? You know, would you go out with me?" I'll ask the girl in the audience, real serious. And then, well, I'm French fries, right?
Yes.
So I said, "Well, will you see me on the slide?" Which I really like. And then my brother, I have a younger brother, David, who is almost an exact duplicate of Curly Howard from the Three Stooges. So I had him put on the French fries, and he was Curly. Okay. Yeah.
No, that's right.
You know, and that was his big stint in show business. That he was Curly Fry.
Now, we were talking about show business earlier, and like Ruth Buzzy.
That was very good. John
that's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So Ruth Buzzy, she's supposedly like near the end of her career.
She was very accessible. A lot of the comedians talk about her who live in California.
I wanted to ask you, since you hung in New York and or Upper Jersey, did you ever meet James Caan?
No.
Right.
But you know who did? From Pittsburgh, Jeff Schneider, who used to run the club, and he one night James Caan came to the back door trying to get in. He wanted to, you know, get into the show, and he was like arguing with people and everything, obviously coked up, and James said he didn't look too good.
After he passed away, several people have posted things on Facebook about him doing that. He used to run with a bad crowd, like showing up with mobster guys, and you know, actually wanted to be one of those people.
Yeah, they you know, they think they play one on TV. They're
oh, and you know what's funny? I'm saying this. I met him. I'm not making this a joke. It's totally true.
Yeah, sometimes it comes back. To
when I lived in Los Angeles,
did he have a fetish for squirrels too?
Maybe. I did extra work on a TV show called Las Vegas, where he ran a casino.
Oh yeah, that they yeah.
And I played a lawyer who was it was me and two other guys, like high priced lawyers. But the episode I was on was directed by Paul Michael Glazer from Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was really cool. And that's where I got my SAG vouchers. But I never joined Screen Actors Guild, but that's where I got my voucher. All right.
And you were there then? He was good in Thief, that movie Thief. I enjoyed that with Farrah Fawcett, I think, is in that also. And she gives a powerhouse performance out of Farrah. Burning Bed Farrah.
Now, I know we may have talked about it, but did you ever meet them? How about Ray Liotta?
Ray Liotta I met at the Desert Inn when they were filming the Frank Sinatra Rat Pack movie. And I met him through Bobby Slayton, Bobby Slayton played Joey Bishop in that movie, and Ray had his eyes. That's what you remember about him, because he had very piercing blue eyes and things like that. And he was actually from like Newark, and a guy from my hometown, Cranford, New Jersey, had a pizza parlor, and Ray used to work there. He used to come in from Newark and work in Cranford, and all the girls would go crazy for him.
No, he looked a little odd the last years of his life, like he had plastic surgery. I think he was wearing a wig on his head. Also, his hair was real thick, and his face was Botox up.
Was that what it was? Because he did look very weird and unhealthy. That's what he looked.
Yeah, I got a picture. I can show it to you, but I know we're online. But he just was unusual looking at. I didn't even know it was him.
Yeah.
No big deal. But he was just all right, another celebrity who passed away too. How about Paulie Walnuts?
Paulie Walnuts, I never got to meet, but I met a lot of people who liked him, and he was a genuine article, and one of the reasons why Sopranos was so believable, because he looked and acted and sounded like one of those wise guys,
people
Jersey wise guys.
People have been putting up clips of him from The Sopranos. Holy crap, was that funny? He was a funny. There he is, right there, with that weird Grandpa Munster haircut.
And to see him in his earlier days, when he was a low ball crook, but he was he wanted to get into the acting, so he looked pretty good as a young man.
Oh, it's interesting too. When he got the call to be on The Sopranos, he was 55 and living on a cot at his mom's basement.
That's the greatest story ever.
Yeah,
I wish my mom was still alive so I could, live on the cot.
All right. Here's another one for you. Paul Sorvino from Goodfellas.
Now, Paul Sorvino, I saw him a couple times. He lived in mid Jersey, and the daughter, the poor daughter who got, I think she got railroaded by Harvey Weinstein.
Yes.
But I went to years ago. I went to a party at the King. Remember the King family, the King, Roger King? They were a pair of brothers who owned like Oprah.
King Syndicate.
The King Syndicate. Popeye they started on, and right over there, Paul came in. But he came into this party where there were all sorts of celebrities, everyone from Oprah to Alex Trebek was there, and it was big time, and the entertainment for the night was. It was big time entertainment. I'll tell you who it was. I'm living right next door to an angel, the piano player. But anyway, he comes in and he's singing opera in the kitchen. Okay, just like that. And he's singing opera, and people are, people are going, crazy for it, because they've been listening to rock and roll and a lot of different rock stars were there.
Not too far from here is the Tacony-Palmyra Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
It's crossing from Jersey to Pennsylvania. There was a big pool hall. They built like an old Acme supermarket, so it's had 80 tables, and it was a big giant pool hall. For their opening weekend, I went down with my friends, and Paul Sorvino was there singing opera.
Okay, so yeah. And it was good to see guerrilla opera. You know what I mean? Like he came into the kitchen and he was he was belting it out. He was like Aria 51.
Yeah,
it was out of this world.
Who else? Right. He also his birthday just passed this week was Taylor Negron.
Taylor Negron. I did shows with him in New York. And he was a different kind of comedian. He would, he was a little ahead of his time. He would tell stories and rely on that. And he was very animated and made those Taylor Negron. I saw him in a couple movies, and he was quite, he was quite good as an actor. And it's funny to see that you're on stage with, or on the same show with people who are actually in movies.
Yeah, what's neat about him too? He did a lot of guest spots in movies in the Rodney Dangerfield film Easy Money.
Easy Money, I just saw that. Yeah,
he played the Latino boyfriend.
Yeah,
and it's just very funny. He played a bad guy in the Bruce Willis film, The Last Boy Scout. It was really pure evil. And in real life too, he enjoyed the company of Bennington waiters.
Well, okay,
and yeah,
he was it was funny to see a character actor like that. On being on the same set. Robert Wool. He's a character actor who I've been on stage with, and it's funny that every now and then Fred Stoller. He's a character actor. He's out there, and so to see these guys being double threats. Not only are they funny guys, but they are also talented actors.
But it's a shame because he did so much. But he also his most famous role was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Sean Penn's character, Spicoli, is being in a class taught by Mr. Hand, played by Ray Walston, my favorite Martian. In the middle of class, you hear a knock at the door, and Ray Walston goes over and says, "Yeah," and he goes, "Delivery guy from Pizza Guy Pizzas." Okay. And delivers the pizza to the class, and very funny.
Was that him? Was that Taylor?
Yeah. Yes.
He delivered the pizza.
Yes.
Okay.
And what I think
that movie, it didn't affect me. A lot of people that was their Rosetta Stone of of hipness. Like everything changed.
That's where
anymore.
No. Well, the Fast Times was directed by Amy Heckerling.
Okay. About
10 years ago, she made a movie called Vamps with Alicia Silverstone and Sigourney Weaver. They played vampires.
Okay.
Well, they're at their mansion / castle waiting to go out. It's a comedy. There's a knock at the door. Mm-hmm. They go, "Who is it?" And it was Taylor Negron, as the same pizza delivery guy from 30 years earlier in Fast Times. I thought it was really funny.
That's great. I'm going to have to look that up because he was actually very nice, and and he complimented me on my props, but he could still follow.
Oh yeah, some of those guys just they don't care.
Yeah,
the advance right there. The girl in the black on the left hand side, Kristen Ritter. She's from the Allentown area, and she's very pretty. She's on the Disney, the Marvel TV show called Jessica Jones. She's just something really pretty about her. She's on a TV show actually on ABC called The Bitch in Apartment 23. It only lasts a season, but it's very funny. She's very attractive. And he also played a pizza guy, but not the same one, in Biodome with Pauly Shore.
Okay.
Oh, did you ever meet him?
Pauly Shore, several times. He was, he was a bit swarthy, or it was, definitely. He had an aura of drugs, and he would always, if he was talking to you, look, beyond your shoulder or something like that. And I don't blame him. Look how he was brought up. He was brought up with with comedians. I mean, he was babysat probably by Taylor Negron.
I bet he was,
and Sam Kinison. And to look at them as role models, they were, So Pauly Shore, I kind of feel not sorry for, but I saw a couple of his specials that he has now, where he's singing songs, and he's not a good singer at all, and you could see that it's kind of desperation, and a teenager being older. He's like he doesn't act mature enough. And he's too old to play that character that he is stuck in.
Exactly, yeah. And he hasn't aged well.
No, he hasn't aged well. He's got
huge circles under his eyes. But you're right though. You hit me on the head. He's still playing that "Hey buddy" character that wasn't even funny anyway. And he used to brag in his interviews, saying, "I know comedy because I was babysat by Richard Pryor and Sam Kinison. They're probably doing drugs, like letting him chew on electrical outlets."
Of course they were.
It just
you know.
Do you think osmosis happens? And who else did that too? Oh, my friend Al said that the new Elvis Presley movie we talked about.
Right.
And Al didn't mean anything bad about it, in case he's listening. But Al said, they let that actor who played Elvis.
Okay.
They let him stay in Graceland for 48 hours. Right? As if that's going to do anything. It's a little piece of trivia. But what's that mean? He is Elvis. He sat in his living room, right? And they also let him play an Elvis guitar for a couple minutes. Like, I hear the kid's fantastic in the movie, but like, how's that going to immerse yourself then?
Sometimes, method actors, they have to, they have to do that. They have to go out and they have to hang out with cops or hang out with criminals. And, to go to Elvis's house for 48 hours, I mean, I have been personally to Graceland 3 or 4 times. And one time I snuck in, but most of the times they super check you. Yeah. And it was like a Disneyland. It was like, it was stopped in 1977. And I got to see the Jungle Room when it still had, some of the things they have taken out of it. They took out a big fake waterfall and, and things like that. But I liked it that he had a room with 3 TVs in it. He'd watch all 3 things so he could watch football, he says. But this was the one they showed us a TV, because the people who are the guides there, they're in on the jokes. They're in on the peanut butter and banana jokes. They're in on, hey, you're going to finish that, that plate of French fries. They're in on that, and they'll almost, they won't, they're irreverent a little about it. And so it was a very enjoyable thing, but you could feel the king actually being there. And I was there early enough to see that they have in the back, he had a slot car set up. He had a big slot car set up in a thing that used to be a barn, but they've taken that down and they put all exhibits up.
Is the building that big? Like I heard something like you think it's like the White House.
It's big enough, and and the gaudiness and the kitschiness of it sort of makes up for that. And to know that it was Elvis, and they make a big deal out of the places you can't go. But I was there, and at that time, the pink Cadillac that he bought his mother was still there, and I took a little chip of paint off the inside bumper, and because there was floods at Graceland, the thing, and they put all the stuff out on the lawn when I was there, and so there was Elvis's army fatigues, and it had like a frayed cuff, and I took a couple of strings.
Oh, very cool.
So, but and if you want to get me, it's a chip of paint and about 3 threads off his fatigue uniform.
But I think something like that's the. Before the show started tonight, we were talking about the celebrities, and this week Will Smith issued a sort of. Let me get my hands out here, this way.
Yeah.
An apology, and
he did the
right. And we talked about this before, but the more I watch this, I guarantee you, if that slap didn't happen, Chris Rock was going to make a joke about Will Smith's wife having affairs with rappers. That's what she did on a podcast in front of him. So I can picture on Will Smith, the biggest night of his career, as a man, and his wife's there, and to have Chris Rock making jokes about your wife's affairs in front of people. Like, that's like emasculating. I think with Will Smith, like you said earlier, he wasn't there mentally, and he went up and slapped him. I was thinking that too. Like, that was like a sense of pride. Like, he didn't want Chris Rock to mock him, make fun of his wife, and it just really infuriated. And plus, it was a slap, not a punch. Like, a slap's like you're really offended.
I think he sympathized with his wife because I'm sure she complained about her alopecia. My mom had the same thing. She had alopecia, and we would make, she would make comments too. We weren't mean. And but yeah, anything can pass for that. You got to figure that Will has been living the life of a movie star since he was a young man, and so any sort of insult or it's going to be compounded because he's been treated so well,
right?
Most of his life, and it was a off color slur against his wife. If people knew, I knew she had alopecia because I read People magazine. No, I knew, but did he? And so to take that into consideration of the people that he that he ruined their night of and that's like a reunion. It only happens once or twice.
Well, also too is the joke he made about her hair, wasn't on the teleprompter. He was going off script.
Okay.
And also too, like he said something like Jay, look at your hair. It looks like you're auditioning for G.I. Jane 2. G.I. Jane came out like 1989, 90. Moore, she plays a Navy SEAL or Army Ranger with a crew cut. That reference is too old, and is it really that funny?
That's Hollywood, and Hollywood would remember something that Demi Moore did that was so up against it. She got her hair cut. She looked like a recruiting, and it's sort of an iconic. It's sort of an iconic thing, a GI Jane. I'm sure it was out. The phrase GI Jane was out before the movie.
Yes,
but but that's sort of iconic. And those Hollywood people, they all remember, especially Demi Moore. She was such a a big presence.
But I almost guarantee you, his next line was going to be a joke about, hey, your wife has a bunch of boyfriends in the bedroom, right? I guarantee he was going to say something like that. And but Chris Rock said he's not going to accept the apology.
Well, yeah. Well, Chris is now, of course he should, but I mean, the fact of the matter was it was a bad night for Will, even though he did win that award. And who knows what drugs they take, or who knows what booze thing, or who knows their mental illness. We see them as the Crown Prince of Bel Air, or or somebody who made a couple good records. I can't say. Did he do Get Jiggy with It?
Yes.
That's
Summertime.
My man.
But
no, the Summertime is the greatest. It's the greatest Valentine to Philadelphia.
I think too that Will Smith wants to be respected in the African American community, and he started as like a pop singer with a French Prince,
right?
And it was very gaudy, and but rappers are like hardcore about their tough life, and here's my way of fighting my way out of the horrors of the neighborhood. Will Smith's talking about being the kid in Beverly Hills or Bel Air, right? Like he wants to be known as a singer, an actor. I guess there's a pride in him. I think he didn't want to be taken away from him.
And as a young man, he was good looking. He could act. He could do everything. He did that movie with I forget his big breakout movie with Donald Sutherland. Where he plays the gay freeloader.
Oh no, it was like 6 degrees separation.
Yeah, 6 degrees of separation. Yeah. He was great in that. He was, and Summertime and things like that. But he wasn't that big of a star. I mean, and this was supposedly his crossover. Okay, yes. He did. He played this is the second time he played like a father who was.
Happiness and a couple other movies.
But he was too privileged for too long, okay, and not and privileged in a way that he's had millions and of different offers all his life, and he's had which are running out now. Yeah. That's why I think he came back and said that, because they canceled some of the movies.
Now you just mentioned movies. sometimes they call movies motion picture.
Mm-hmm.
I hate being photographed from the ground up on an angle, like looking up. Because you can weigh 1 pound and you look all jolly. I did a show last night with the hilarious Josh Jacobo. If he's listening right now, very funny guy.
Very funny.
They took pictures, but every time they take a picture of me, I look like my face is behind my garage door. Now on the show now, I'm looking right at the camera. I look okay. I look like a thick roofer. But Wade never takes a bad picture. He's lean,
mean, and I know how to hide my jowls. But you suck them in a little, John.
Oh yeah, definitely. But you don't have to show the punchline. Your pictures are great. I look like Greg the Hammer Valentine stumble around because they took it looking up and no straight on looking down.
What, John? I'm the movie that I want to know about.
Yes,
is the Batwoman, a Batgirl movie.
You know,
and I hear, they spent $90 million on this movie, and it's not going to come out. Now, do you think that it's going to $90 million on a Batgirl movie with I don't know who was in it?
Well, supposedly in this movie, Michael Keaton is returning as Batman.
That was it. That was it.
And he's usually playing his age, like 65, 70 years old.
Uh-huh.
But here he's like the leader. He's like Tony Stark. He's the leader of a super league, right? But this Batgirl movie looks completely awful. And when they say, "Oh, we're gonna make a movie aimed toward little girls," girls don't care about that. They're to see that. You might say, "Oh, John, what do you know?"
No, they didn't like the pink Lionel trains either. Let women be women.
Yeah, but that's a lot of money. The movie cost about $100 million, and they shelved it. Like that's really bad. Like they released worse things than that, like Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, and other movies that are just awful. This must have been really terrible. And
because you said something about DC movies, direct currents, DC
Distinguished Comics,
no, Superman, Batman, things like that are not as the movies are not as well received as Marvel Universe.
Yeah, they're not. They're uneven. They're all uneven. I do like. Who doesn't like Superman and stuff like that? But they're all uneven. But the Marvel movies, you root for the character. Some of the DC movies, and people will say, "Well, they're trying to distance themselves." No, you want to have a likable character. You want to follow it. Don't make it too heady. That's the problem I always have with these movies. But Batgirl, it's not Catwoman. She's Commissioner Gordon's daughter. She has a purple, pink. It's awful. Also, too, I said to my brother, studios have investors,
right?
And they tell their investors, "We're going about 10 movies a year. You're investing in, and hopefully one will be a big hit and we'll have good returns." Well, sometimes they don't have good scripts. So they greenlight anything, thinking it'll get people. Well, they made the Batgirl movie, and they have reviews, and it must be really, really bad not to even let it premiere on TV.
They said it tested bad, which I guess, I don't know, test audience. They would show it after, when they test a movie, I guess they show it after another movie that is similar to it in the same genre, like but it's some science fiction or something like that.
And you see, what they're trying to do is have Michael Keaton be the linchpin of all these movies.
Okay.
And here, this really sets it back. But they're making a Flash movie. The kid who always played the Flash,
and that guy has gotten into a lot of trouble with assaults and a typical deadbeat behavior.
In real life too, he enjoys Alan Clues and Benny the Waiters.
Yeah, and he's
he's really good as a character too. In the Justice League movie, he's actually very likable and quirky and funny. But in this new one, he has to travel real fast to go back through time.
I loved when Flash did that in the comic books. I was a Flash fan for a couple of years.
He goes back in time to solve his father. His father's in jail for murdering his mom. He didn't do it, so he goes back through time to see what happened or stop it.
Okay.
Well, in the new movie, he goes back through time and he encounters other Batmen, like Ben Affleck's Batman.
Okay.
Michael Keaton's Batman.
Wow.
You're going to different multiverses, like the Marvel movie.
Okay.
But you're right though. He got in trouble for grabbing people.
Thank goodness he didn't run into George Clooney or Val Kilmer. Okay, that would have been pretty bad. That Val Kilmer is he was, even as a child, he was on he was a child actor, and he went to audition for a commercial about Burger King.
Right.
And in the middle of the audition, he says, "I can't pretend that." And he was a 10-year-old kid. "I can't pretend I like this burger. I don't like it." And he walked off the set.
Now, Val Kilmer too was also in a Sudden Impact with Clint Eastwood. He plays one of the guys in the coffee shop.
Okay.
But what am I gonna tell you? That do any shows coming up? We have April 13th. I'll be doing a show up in Scranton, but April 20th.
No, August 20th.
Oh, sorry, August 20th. Sorry, August.
It's good, John. It had an A in it.
Yeah.
Now, August 20th will be at the wonderful Comedy Cabaret in Doylestown, atop Poco's Restaurant. Okay?
623 East Main Street, 676 JOKE 2115.
A great place to see a comedy show. Okay, and then many people would say this is one of their favorite rooms to see it in. So, and the people are all nice, and it's and it's a great show. I've been there a lot of times, and I always try to do something a little bit different, bringing the comedy.
And but that's it. Check us out online. WID has several videos on YouTube under WID's
self-archaeology, which I'm going to do another season of.
Very fun.
And which is a lot of fun. It goes through my collections. And John is actually starting a dating service between mammals. Okay, he's trying to get some of his favorite mammals together. Squirrels being one of them, and the others being a bear repellent.
And that was fun tonight. But everybody, that was it for this week's show. We'll see you next time.
It was the hat show. That's what it was. Okay, that was we said that at the beginning of our showing.
And that's it.
Peace.